Hey there, guys, and welcome to another episode of Ask Xterminator. And this series is a series where you guys ask me questions in the comments and I answer them. So if you want to have me answer a question, leave your question in the comments of this video you're listening to right now. I'm currently going to start answering questions for last week's video. So this week I answer questions for last week. Next week I'll answer questions left in this week's video. So leave them down below in this video for me to answer next week. And they can be related to anything, Factorio, game related, just anything, even not related to either one, as long as it's appropriate for me to answer on YouTube. Anyway, let's get started. We have some really interesting ones. Every week there's good ones. There's some really interesting ones this time as well. Like, they're all interesting, but these are really, there's some different ones. So this is good. Chris Camps asks, as a follow-up question that was asked in this episode about the challenges, so this is last week's, and asked in last week's, their question is, would you consider making a series on trying to speedrun the game? Would this be content you enjoy to do? I've never really thought of doing a series. I did actually attempt to speedrun the game on a couple streams a long time ago. And it was interesting, I suppose. I don't think I would really enjoy it. Speedrunning is just not my thing. Like, I'm not a very fast player. Anyone who's watched my content, especially my streams, and of course some of that's just because I'm talking to people live, but no, I can't really wrap my head around speedrunning or like how to really go about it. I've watched speedrunners, I've watched Anti many times, I've watched Rain many times. I've tuned into Nephrons a couple times. And it's really cool to watch, but like, when I look at them, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but there's no way I could actually play this way. So I probably don't think I would ever do that, unless I'm just like at the absolute bottom of the barrel for content. I'm like, okay, I need content right now, or my channel's gonna die and I can't think of anything. I've been brainstorming for weeks. Then maybe I would, but like I don't even know if I would enjoy it, to be honest. So yeah, probably not to both those parts of the question, unfortunately. Tom asks, what are your views on alternate vanilla settings, e.g. Ribbon World, Marathon, Death World, etc., compared to just the default settings, and which would be your favorite / least favorite to play? My views are that it's really cool that they're in the game. Like, it's really cool the devs have done that. I've played some of them. I have played Death World. I have played Train Rail World. And I've actually just started the Island preset in my stream, my latest Supplying Atlantis series. Definitely check that out if you haven't on my stream. I just uploaded part 1 of the VOD for that, time-lapse. But I haven't really tried a Ribbon World. Like, I've played a Ribbon World before, a long time ago. I haven't actually, like, never played Marathon. Again, my opinion, they're cool, they're in the game. I definitely see how they're appealing to some people. So to kind of go into the second part of your question, my favorite is definitely Rail World preset. Like, I just really like how the passages are spread out. I like that it encourages trains. I like the biter expansion is turned off. And that like resources are set higher but more spread out. I just really like that idea and style of play. Ribbon World, I'm not a fan of. Like, it definitely provides a really cool, interesting challenge. Like, I'm not knocking on the, no, I'm not hating on the on the actual like preset or the idea of a Ribbon World at all. I just personally don't enjoy it. It's just like not a set of constraints that I actually enjoy playing with. And the same would be for Marathon. Marathon, like, I guess it's a decent like vanilla way of upping your, like, I don't really even know how to, I was going somewhere but then realized that like doesn't even make sense because it doesn't even increase complexity. It literally is the same exact recipes you work with. It's just like you need more of them, like, because science is just more expensive, right? Or recipes are like 4 times as expensive. So it's not like you're actually changing recipes. You're just making them more expensive, which means you need to build bigger to get to the same thing. But in my opinion, like, why not just leave it vanilla and just have a bigger goal in mind, like to begin with? Like, You know, if you let's say your last base you did 1,000 science per minute, instead of doing marathon times 4, why not just leave it vanilla, like pure, like not preset, just leave it absolutely default, um, and do 4,000 science per minute instead of just making every recipe 4 times more expensive. Like I don't know. To me, it doesn't really make sense. Like I don't really see the appeal to it. Again, it's cool, it's there. If some people enjoy it, that's awesome. You know, not hating on your playstyle or anything, but personally, I just don't really see the point of it. So yeah. Samuel asks tips on refueling trains in a megabase. So this is a really interesting question. I'm glad you asked this because I've had multiple people ask this. Um, and the method I like to use, particularly in a segregated megabase, like where you have like separate production facilities throughout the map instead of just one gigantic like condensed base all in one area. If you do the segregated one, the kind of separate production facilities, I like to like have a specific train fuel drop-off station in each production facility. So like in each smelter area, have a station in there that's not your ore drop-off or plate pickup, but like a separate station that's still within the logistics network. We probably would need bots at least to some degree for this, even if you're not using like a bot-based production. At least bots to carry the fuel just make things so much easier. That's in the logistic range, and then like do that. So for like smelters, for circuits, like for each type of circuit build, or if you have them all in one, just circuits in general for each science thing. And then what you do is you just have a little facility that creates fuel because you're going to need so much of it. And then you have a train, maybe 2 trains, usually 1 is fine though, that is loaded like a cargo wagon that's loaded with fuel. And then you just set like a sequential thing of stops for it to go. So you just set like, you know, circuit fuel drop off, smelter fuel drop off, red science fuel drop off, green science fuel drop off, etc., in the schedule of this fuel train, and it will just go to each one and drop off fuel. And then like since the station's in the network of that production facility, then you just have requester chests like where your trains come into the production facility and fuel them there. And then if that makes sense, you kind of just have like one train that goes around everywhere instead of like having all your trains go to one area or something to fuel. I think that the first method works better. So hopefully that makes sense. I should really probably do a video on that. It'd be obviously easier to show, but I hopefully made that make sense by just verbally explaining it. The J Meister says, thanks for answering last week. They say, my question for this week, inspired by the desert-based footage at the end of last week's video. They say, do you prefer centralizing resource intake, i.e., or from all tapped patches of a resource routed through the same smeltery or set of smelters and then distributed to the rest of the base from there, or tapping separate patches of each resource for each self-contained production facility, each with its own smaller smelteries and not having them share raw ore throughput? That is a really interesting question. I actually have to say I'm not sure I've even done the second method before. So I guess that in and of itself kind of answers your question. That I've kind of just always defaulted to the first option where I have like smelter facilities for like the entire production in the entire map, and then the plate and stuff is just taken from those to all other production facilities, and the ore is just tapped generally for the entire map and sent to those smelters, rather than having like specific patches that are tapped for each production facility and then like smelters for those production facilities. I don't really see a huge problem with the second one. I've just never really done it. I guess to me it almost just seems like more of a pain. Like, again, I don't know if there's anything necessarily wrong with it. It just seems like more of a pain because I have to like math out more. You know, if I have like a mega base and say for circuits, say I have like red circuits. Well, that's not a good example. Let's say we have like green circuits and then like, I don't know, something like low density structures or something like separate facilities. Is like I have to actually calculate like how much I have to be like, okay, well I need to find ore patches that are like this amount of ore and can provide this amount of ore for a smelter of this throughput for this facility, and then like I have to do that for circuits, and then I have to do like that again for low density structures, and the numbers are obviously going to be different, and I have to do that like every single time, and it's just like, and then I have to like find patches that like meet those specifications. you know, I could just go overkill, but again, it's a little too specific for me. Whereas if I just have a general smelting area that just sends the plates and stuff throughout the entire map, and I just have ore that just supplies all those smelters right there, I can just go tap 10 copper and 10 iron patches, and then if that's not enough, I just add 5 more of each, and I just jam ore into it until it produces enough. And then if it starts running low, I just stay on the same main line and just go out and just find more patches. Like, it doesn't really matter what richness they are. Like, I just tap the next one I see. It just seems like way like less of a headache to me, because I don't really need to math out like exactly like how much like ore and smelting I need per every single facility. Um, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. um, Several people have said they like my rant from last video. That's interesting. I'm glad to hear you liked my rant, which we'll actually touch on again here soon. David asks, what was your single most favorite headache-worthy design build so far? I assume you're referring to one I built, and definitely my favorite was in the my Sending Supporters to Space playthrough. And for anyone who watched that playthrough, you'll probably know what I'm going to refer to. It is what I dubbed the switcheroo. It was this extremely convoluted, overly complicated train system to try to achieve like balanced train delivery without train backups, and it actually worked decently. It was just way overly complicated. It's really hard to explain, but it was just like this super convoluted train thing where like ore trains pulled into these stations, and then they were like, the ore was like transferred into cars or something. I think it was tanks at the time, and then put into another set of trains that were like on a dedicated rail network that only went within the smelters. And then that like, so then those second set of trains took the ore from the first set of outpost trains and delivered it to each smelter, and then like went back to the station to get more from the outpost trains and stuff. It worked really well, like, you know, because what I was trying to avoid was having like trying to have ore trains go to the right smelters and like balance out, which now we could do pretty well thanks to the brand new train station limit they introduced in 1.1. But back then we had absolutely nothing like that. So that was my solution. It actually worked pretty damn well. It was just a massive headache to set up. It took absolutely forever. It was way bigger than like, it was just gigantic. It was ridiculous. But yeah, that's definitely my favorite. Misa Elf says, we need a new black market mod with integration with every mod. Can you make a request of some modder you know? Unfortunately not. The only modders I actually like interact with actively are the two modders who make my mods, and they like barely have time to make my tiny little Twitch integration mod, much less like revamp a whole other big mod. So unfortunately not, like, I'm not, you know, I do the spotlights and stuff, and like, you know, obviously like I am in like kind of in touch with some other modders. You know, they've commented on my videos, I've talked to them, but it's not like I can just go to a modder and just be like, hey, I need you to revamp this mod for me. You know? So yeah, unfortunately not. Jacob asks, do you enjoy the dark matter mod at all? Have you made a megabase yet using the dark matter mod? Automatic no to your second question, because to answer your first question, I have no idea. I've never played it. So it's an I don't know and a no. I don't know if I enjoy it because I've never played it before, and then obviously since I've never played it, I've never made a megabase with it. So yeah, I don't know. I've looked into it, I think, a little bit. I don't really even remember what it does. I think you like get dark matter from something and then make things with that instead of ore or something. I don't really remember, to be honest. It looked way too complicated to be spotlighting. So I've never played with it. I didn't look at it that deeply. But yeah. What are your thoughts on? Sorry, Twilight asks, what are your thoughts on the different types of combat robots, and are they useful or not, and why? Um, they're actually not bad. For certain parts of the game, which is obviously makes sense. They're intended for certain parts of the game. The defender robots, I think, are actually better than you may give them credit for. Like early on, you can get them really early. And if you have a few like damage upgrades, like shooting like bullet damage upgrades, which apply to them, um, they do pretty good work. Like they'll shred some stuff. And they're not that expensive to make. So like early on, if you get them like basically as soon as you can get them, unless you've like taken 25 hours to get to that level of science or something, which I mean is fine, but at that point they're not going to be great because of the biter evolution. But if you get them pretty quick, they're really good, I think, for that part of the game. But they very quickly, I would say, like once you get medium biters, unless you just like maxed out your bullet damage upgrades, once you start getting like medium biters, they are not that great. But then distractor capsules are pretty good. Distractor capsules, I think you have to be a little more like conscious of how you use them, otherwise they're not going to be that good. So they're a little more tedious to use, I think, because like obviously if you throw them in the incorrect place, since they don't follow you, this is just wasted basically, or they're not going to do very much. And then the destroyer capsules are pretty good, I think, in mass. Like I play with them quite a bit, and you really like late game. Like once you're getting like once you have big biters, big spitters, and then like if you start throwing in like some behemoth biters, you're gonna need a lot of them. You're gonna need a truckload of them following you around to like really do good work. I think, probably. I know when you throw them out, they throw in like sets of 3 or something, but I think you would probably need like, I would say at least like 20 to 30 of them to like actually be really good. Um, that's kind of just my opinion. So I think they're decent, like for what they are, and like in certain parts of the game. But I certainly don't think they're like the end all be all by any means. Personal laser defenses, on the other hand, are insane. Those are really good. I would definitely invest my materials into personal laser defenses. Mark S asks, how many hours do you have on Factorio? He says, watching you sometimes makes me feel like a noob. I have over 3,000 hours, and doing my first run on both Bobs and Angels, I think I'm going to regret it. Thanks for the hours of ideas. Well, you're very welcome. They've also done space exploration in Factorio. So, it's really hard for me to actually know because the majority of my playtime was actually not on Steam. I played for like a year and a half before the game was even on Steam, maybe even longer than that. And then even once it was on Steam, a ton of my playtime, like many playthroughs, when I was playing heavily too, like hours and hours and hours a day, was not. I didn't play on Steam. I had a standalone version of the game because it made it easier for me to like keep the version I wanted and like switch mods and like have like multiple mod sets going at once, and stuff like that. So it's really hard to track because like obviously not on Steam. I can't track it through like multiple standalone things that are spread between like 3 computers. But my guess, and this is what I answered, I commented for them, but my guess is definitely around 7,000 hours or so. Again, it's really hard to tell. I mean, I've been playing for like over 5 years now, and there was a decent amount of time there. I would say there was probably like 2 years there where I was just playing a lot. Like when I first started, I was playing a lot. Like when I first started playing, and then like in the peak of like playing with like Colonel Will and crew, that's like when I was playing the most. Like even despite my huge dinner breaks and all that stuff, I was playing a lot. Like I was playing, we would have just 3, 4, 5, 6 hour sessions like multiple times a week. And yeah, so right now I have 624.6 hours logged on Steam, and that is a very small amount of my playtime. Like I said, the majority of it is not on Steam. So yeah, I would say like low end 6,000 hours, probably more than that, honestly. Um, so yeah, that's like my best guess. I guess if you really wanted to, if someone has like, I mean, I would be interested. If someone has just a ton of time on their hands, um, if you want to go through and like add up, I don't know if like YouTube gives this information, just looking at a playlist maybe. But if you want to go through and add up, um, like the total time of all my Factorio videos on my channel, most of them should be in playlists. If anyone wants to do that, let me know what that is, and it's gonna be more than that because I definitely played a lot that isn't on video, but that would at least give a starting point. It's just how many hours of Factorio videos have I made? So that's at least a starting point. If someone wants to do that, that is way too much work for me to do. But yeah, that would be a starting point. Um, Let me see here. A bunch of things that aren't questions. Oh, Backseat Gamer says, would you consider doing a Ribbon World? I just started Ribbon. Well, first off, I hope you enjoy and good luck to you. And then this kind of refers back just to what I said previously. I've considered it. It's definitely more of a possibility than other things. I don't really think I would enjoy it, to be honest. That's, again, kind of like low on the totem pole, like last resort type of thing for me. Um, every time I go to start a new playthrough, people ask a Ribbon World, and I consider it, and then I actually am like, no, that's not something I want to do. Let me see. Let me just make sure I didn't miss a question. Phineas Masters, I think, asks, do you have any advice on getting the There Is No Spoon achievement for completing the game in 8 hours? I can finish in something like 9 hours, but I don't see how I can get much faster than that. I seem to run out of copper plates and steel, and the amount of time it takes to make more is just too long. Okay. First thing, I would recommend watching some speedrunners. Speedrunners complete the game in, I believe the record now is under 2 hours. So, I'm not saying this to like make you feel bad or anything because I probably can't really do much better than you. I'm saying this because speedrunners are an excellent source of learning how to do something faster. A speedrunner can complete the game in basically a fourth of the time of There Is No Spoon. So if you watch some speedrunners, my suggestions are Rain, Anti-Elites, and Nephrims. Those are just the top 3 off the top of my head. I know there's more. I'm not saying they're bad, just those are the top 3 off the top of my head. Rain doesn't really speedrun much anymore. Anti-Elites and Nephrims definitely do. Just by watching them, even just a little bit, like even just watching a stream or watching like parts of several streams or videos, like recorded VODs, you can learn a lot. Like you can learn so much about how you can improve things. And if you're only off by like 1 hour, if you say you can only do it in 9 hours, you could honestly probably just watch one of their streams and figure out things you can do to just save yourself an hour. Like, trust me, it will help. In terms of like running out of copper and steel and it taking too long to get more, I'm not sure what you're doing specifically to get more. So the thing with There Is No Spoon is it's not like a speed run. Like, it doesn't have speed run requirements outside of just the time thing. So like if you're really having trouble, you could honestly just like set the resources really high, and then you just won't run out of stuff. Like that's not a rule. There Is No Spoon is not broken by changing resource settings and stuff. So like if you're just like personally set on just doing it at like default settings, I don't know if you're trying to set up trains or something because that does take a while. Honestly, I would say just belt, like just for that, just like belt in like more resources. That's gonna be a lot quicker than setting up a train infrastructure for sure. It's gonna be a little more expensive, but it's definitely gonna be quicker. Again, without knowing like all the specifics of what you're doing or what you're not doing, I would definitely those are my suggestions. Watch a speedrunner, and even really probably just from that you'll be fine. But then with getting resources, if you're like trying to set up trains, I wouldn't bother with that. It just takes too long. Just belt in extra resources, or just like I said, just like max out your settings, like max out your resources If you're having a really hard time, that doesn't disqualify you from the achievement. The only thing it does is using mods and using commands. So, um, let me see. Someone else says they like my rants. Let me see. Uh, Sorry, there's a bunch of like things intermixed here. Let me see. Tyler reads as, how often do you get hit by trains? Hours per hit. Not nearly as much as I used to. I still get hit a lot by trains. Not really that many natural trains. With Twitch integration, the viewers can make trains hit me, kind of like they can like throw trains across the screen at me, kind of. But like natural train deaths, it's been a really long time. I've actually got really good at not being hit by trains. It helps when I'm not in multiplayer. If I were in multiplayer, I probably would die a lot more by trains. One, latency. Two, it's a lot more distracting. I died so much by trains when I play with Colonel Will and stuff. And part of that was latency, and part of it was like I just wasn't paying attention. Like I'd be talking to them like in an in-depth conversation, just be like walking through the map and like crossing rails all the time without even looking. So I don't know. I don't really get hit by trains, like natural trains, that much anymore. So this is a really interesting question from Fred G. Not game related whatsoever, and I had to think about this beforehand. And I'm not even sure I have a super good answer. They say, what is something you think is perfectly normal that people around you think is weird? I have two answers to this. And I don't want this to be controversial at all, because I'm not saying one thing is right and one thing is wrong. I'm saying I'm just literally answering the question that something I think is normal that other people think is weird, or like is not normal or something. I'm just answering the question. I'm not saying one thing's right, one thing's wrong. First thing is the fact that I am absolutely perfectly content just like being by myself. Like like I don't know, I'm trying to think how else to like elaborate on this. That like, I mean, like, yes, I have a girlfriend. My life is like, I feel much happier with my girlfriend. I'm not saying that like I don't want a partner, and I actually was really lonely. Like, I don't mean being alone in that sense. I mean just like being like on my own, like being by myself, like in a room, or like being at home by myself, opposed to like going out all the time and like hanging out with people all the time and like going to events and all this. And I think it's just a personality type. And this is like absolutely nothing to do with the world situation of COVID or anything like that. Like even like way before this, like just generally, and I've always been this way, is like I am super, super content. And I think it's because I'm an introvert. Like, I know this, like, I'm saying this because I know someone's probably going to point it out. But yes, I know I'm an introvert, and this is probably why. But, like, most people around me, at least, most people I know are not. And they think it's weird, and, like, it's opposite of what's normal for them. Like, so many people, my girlfriend included, is like, before COVID and stuff, and some people even during COVID. That's another subject that's maybe controversial, but are like, you know, like multiple nights a week. They're just like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with friends. We're gonna go have dinner. We're gonna go get drinks, or like I'm gonna go to a concert, or I'm gonna go camping, or I'm gonna travel all the time, or I'm gonna, go do this and go do that. And it's like, to me, like that's like I am just so content with literally just being like home and just being like having my own time, I guess. And I think a lot of like most people around me think that's really weird. Like they just don't understand that. Like, in fact, some people just seem to not even be able to stand that. Like, I know people who literally just can't be like by themselves, like in a room by themselves for more than a couple minutes, or just be like at home by themselves for more than like an hour or something. uh and that's like not me at all. The second one, and so this is something that probably a lot of you actually don't know. Anyone who watches my stream does, because I talk about this fairly often, but I'm a vegetarian, and I've been a vegetarian my entire life, and that's normal to me. And literally, basically everyone I know, I don't know if they would think it's weird. Like most people I know are pretty accepting of it. Like they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like okay, and like they don't like hate me or like make fun of me or anything like that. But like I know they just don't really understand it and like think it's maybe kind of weird. Um, and to me, it's not. Like, some people, like a lot of people, just don't comprehend. They're like, "How can you just not eat meat? Like, what the hell do you eat?" And to me, it's totally normal. Like, I don't even, it's not even a consideration. Like, I go to make my meal, and like, I have absolutely no problem making meals without meat. And it's like, and it's not like I'm just sitting there eating like a bowl of vegetables. Like, I can make perfectly good, very delicious, hearty meals without meat, and that's normal to me. Like I don't, like I said, like I don't even like I don't struggle. I don't consider it a challenge or like anything like that. It's totally normal to me, and I think basically everyone I know just doesn't get it. They just don't understand it. And so yeah, those are my two answers. Again, I'm not saying one thing's right or one thing's wrong or anything like that. That's just my answer. Um, Let me see. Patrick Zerg asks, still kind of new to, they say they're still kind of new to Factorio, and I agree 100% in regards to fluids, a thing I went into a bit of a rant last time. Say fluids are ligma inducing. That said, what would you change about fluids to make them user friendly and enjoyable? I've heard someone mention directional pipes, which sounds cool. I would do a lot of things. I would basically just change the entire system. I don't I don't think the fluid system in Factorio is good at all. It's like it's really bad in my opinion. Um, I think like directional pipes would be a start. Valves of some sort would be a start. Like fairly easily implementations in the grand scheme of things. I say easy just as in like the idea is easy. Um, One thing that was talked about, I think even the devs mentioned it in a Friday Facts when they were discussing changing the fluid system, was having fluids basically act like power does, where it almost just teleports like in a way that like power like in the game, it like you click on a power pole and like all the power poles just have power going through them. There's no like huge fluctuation like between power poles like there is with fluids, right? It doesn't like power doesn't slosh back and forth. And they were talking about doing something like that. Now, granted, obviously that's not realistic at all. But in terms of actual gameplay, I think it'd be way better. It'd be a hell of a lot more performance efficient. I think it would be way less annoying to work with. Um, and they were going to do like they were actually talking fairly in depth about like having fluids split properly and stuff like and then they just decided not to do that. I think they ran into a lot of problems and then they just like didn't do it, which was really disappointing to me. I was so excited for that. um so I don't know, it's kind of like I can't get the stuff about it that I just don't really have like the programming knowledge to really be suggesting changes for that. you know I think eliminating the sloshing completely, having fluids actually split. To my knowledge, and someone who knows better than this, please correct me if I'm wrong. In real life, now, now I know I just suggested something that's absolutely not realistic, but going the other direction. In real life, if you have a pipe with a fluid flowing through it, and you have a T junction, right? So it goes through a straight pipe. There's a T junction up ahead, and the pipe is like full of fluid, and the fluid hits the T junction, it should like I think in real life it like goes both directions pretty evenly. I'm pretty sure that's like how it works. And that's not how it works at all in Factorio. It's like so it just is not intuitive at all. It's just so frustrating to work with. So I there's just so much I would change. I would just basically get rid of the entire system and just do something completely different. I don't know quite what, to be honest. But yeah, that's I think that's kind of the best answer I can give. Um, so I'm gonna end on a rant, guys. Here you go. It's not really. It's kind of a rant. It's not that big of a rant. 05-11 posts a massive wall of text in regards to my rant last time about playing modded, like right off the bat. I'm not gonna read it. I did read it. I'm not like ignoring it. Like I did read it, but I'm not gonna read it out loud because it's super long, and a lot of stuff in here that isn't super relevant to Factorio itself. Basically, I'll just read like the first sentence or paragraph. They say they have a slightly different perspective regarding the new and modding topic. They say, if I understand you correctly, from your perspective, modding is something you do when the game gets boring, something to do to enhance its lifetime and make things interesting again. Going with that line of thinking, one would lose out by modding early due to robbing yourself of the ability to discover the original game in depth. And then they say what they think I'm not considering is people go into a game with vastly different mindsets. People like you who give a lot about the quote-unquote intended experience and people who don't, like him or them. I go into any game with the goal to get the maximum amount of fun out of it if I can. They say, if I disagree with the devs' choices, I will correct them myself. I don't care what the devs intended because I know better what I personally enjoy, and the game creation always requires you to find... oh, no, they say enjoy in a game and get the maximum fun out of it, which is completely valid. Like, obviously, you know what you enjoy better than someone else. They say if I yeah, so they say in my experience is making anything you touch fit your taste before using it stance is something to programmers seem to be especially prone to. Okay, so basically, here's the deal. And someone else replied to them, and their reply is kind of what I'm going to say. Killer B replied and said, this might be my own opinion changing the way I perceive what Xterm said, but I take it on is this. And they say that 05-11 did start out with a vanilla style game to the extent to which, you know, basically long enough to know that they didn't like something about it that the devs did, right? And that's kind of the thing, right? Either there's one of two options. There's only one of two options. Number one is you actually started playing the game vanilla and at some point realized you didn't like something about it. Like if you're modding early without actually playing fully through, right? Let's just say we're in this situation where you're not playing the game fully through vanilla. You're like, okay, so if you haven't played the game in vanilla fully through and are starting to mod it already, that's what I'm considering modding like too early, in my opinion. Okay, so that's like the parameters. There's only one of two options. You either started playing and at some point before beating the game realized you didn't like something about it based on what 05-11 said, probably pretty early on, and then decided to get mods to change it. Okay, that's option one. Option two is you somehow decided that you didn't like something developers did in the game or how the game plays before even playing it, which in and of itself is a really stupid, really stupid thing to do, in my opinion. Like, okay, I'm sorry, that's kind of rude, but like, if you just go buy a game and you're just like, you haven't even pressed play yet, like you haven't even started playing the game yet, and you're just like, oh, I don't like the devs, the way the devs did this. Like, how do you know? You haven't even played it yet, you know? Like, it's like one of those people who's like, oh no, I don't like Brussels sprouts. Have you eaten them? No. It's like, okay, well then shut up. I'm sorry. That's like rude. That's a rant, but like, so those are the two options. If it's option one, I don't really have an issue with that. Like, you obviously started playing the game vanilla, which is like what I would hope someone would do in the first place. And then if there was something you didn't like that you wanted to fix, it sounds like it's mostly quality of life mods you'd get. I suppose you could go in and play and be like, oh, these recipes are too simple. Let me just get like Bob's Angels. I mean, sure. At least you tried it vanilla a little bit. I don't have that big of a problem with it. But like, if it's a second option, man, that's what I ranted about last time. And I was actually less rude about it last time than I am now. But like, this is like, that's the type of people that my rant was focused on. Again, if that's the way you want to play, go for it. Like, I'm not saying like you're dumb or anything. I just disagree with it personally. that's like what personally grinds my gears and is a pet peeve of mine. Is like if you just haven't even played the game yet, if you installed the game and as far as you've gotten is to open it to go into the mod portal and get mods, you're just like, okay, well I just installed this new game. Let's just go load 15, 20 mods into the game before you even played it. That's what really irritates me. It's like how can you possibly even know what you like or don't like about it before you even played it? And then on top of that, even if you've played it a while and you're like, oh, these recipes are too simple and stuff, like if you've only played it like 30 minutes or something, and then you decide to go get like Bob's Angels, even that kind of drives me a little crazy, okay? It's kind of like, I'm going to give it a comparison, okay? This is the last thing that I'm going to end the video. I'm putting the rant last for those of you who want to hear it, and maybe I don't scare so many people away. To me, and of course it's going to be food related, it's like if you're a person who, like, all you know how to make is scrambled eggs and, like, a real crappy mac and cheese, okay? Like, let's just say that's, like, all you know how to make. Like, that's just, like, your extent of being able to cook, okay? And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to get into cooking. Let's try something new. And this you know, this is an example, so that's like you going to play Factorio, right? But with, you know, with cooking. And if you're like, you don't even attempt to learn like how to make anything else. You're just like, okay, your knowledge is scrambled eggs and a real crappy mac and cheese, and you're like, all right, you know, I'm gonna go do like pan-seared scallops with like a bechamel sauce and like, you know, completely homemade like, you know, apple pie with, you know, like homemade like syrup on top, and, you know, this salad with this like super, you know, nice intricate like vinaigrette dressing and stuff. And like you don't even know like you don't even know like how to even make the parts to make the thing like of any of that. Like that's the extent, right? It's like sure, you may go in and if you play for 30 minutes an hour and you're like, oh, these recipes are too simple, like sure, the recipes may be simple, and sure you could add mods to make the recipes more complicated, like Bob's Angels, or something like that. And like it's gonna be okay as far as the recipes go, because I mean, it's not that hard. Like you just look at the recipe and then see what it takes, and then find that thing and then make it. But like my issue is like you don't even understand at that point like the principle, like the mechanics of the game, which is like related to the cooking. Like how the hell are you gonna make like a homemade pie crust or like a bechamel sauce or like cook scallops correctly when you don't even know like you don't even know what a correctly cooked scallop like looks like, or you don't even know how to like begin making like you don't even know what goes in a bechamel sauce. Like, you know, it's kind of the same thing. It's like sure, the recipe of like the thing in Factorio is maybe too simple for you, you think, and you want to make it more complicated or something like that, but like you don't even understand like completely how belts work, or like you don't even know how train stations work yet, you know. It's like that's where I get an issue, is because there are literally, and I'm not saying this is like, I'm not necessarily ranting at you 0511, you're listening to this, because you make some good points, but like there are literally people, I've seen comments of this and like had people talk about it. There are people who will go in and either before even playing any part of the game, they just boom install Bob's Angels because they saw some YouTuber playing it or something, or they go in and they play like 2 3 hours, and then they just go put like something, like they go do C block or something, and it's like what, why are you adding all this stuff when you don't even understand like how the core mechanics of the game work yet? You know, that's my issue. It's not that you like don't understand the recipes, like, you know, it's just recipes, but when you don't even understand how like the main parts of the game interact and work, why would you be adding all this stuff that isn't even part of the main game? That's okay. That's the end of my rant. There you go. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to offend anybody. Again, I don't want to hate on play styles or like play preferences. I've said this many times before. I'll say it again. If you want to like play however the hell you want, but like personally, it annoys me. I'm not gonna say that like you're stupid. Like even though it sounded like maybe I was saying that, I really didn't mean that. Like you can play however you want to play, and just you do you. But I think maybe it's a little more consideration to go into it, I guess, is my conclusion there. Anyway, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry for the huge rant at the end. That was like a 15-minute rant. Hope you enjoyed. Anyone who loves the rants. And again, if you do have questions, leave them in the comments of this video. I really appreciate you all so much. Thank you for all the questions and letting me continue this series by asking questions. I really do enjoy it. I hope you guys do enjoy it as well. And if you did, a like is much appreciated. And if you are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe to keep up with all content. And there we go. Until next time, guys, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.